Now, these drums are from the song She's Gone by the artist Aryan King. Now, he's an incredible guitarist from Kiev. He's a great musician. He's really just a nice guy who I've had the pleasure of working with over the last 3 years. So, firstly, I want to just share some gratitude and love towards Aryan for allowing these stems to be completely downloadable for you guys to practice mixing drums on, or just getting used to, or trying to just play with some techniques. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I do implore you, go in the link in the description, sign up, download the stems, and share with me your mixes. And if you send them to me, I'm going to take a listen. For the most part, though, moving forward from that, this channel is apolitical. It's a mixing and mastering channel. However, it's really hard to ignore the atrocities happening in Aryan's homeland of Ukraine. I tried to figure out how to sign up as a YouTube partner to do fundraising, because you can do that where you nominate a charity for a video. However, in Australia, that's not set up. You can't set up a YouTube partner program for sponsored videos in terms of like charity in Australia. That's not something that's set up yet. So if you've got the means available, find a non-for-profit with feet on the ground in Ukraine, donate to the cause, help people that are struggling over there. Now, from that, let's jump into mixing these drums. I've got all the stems lined up in here. Now, the first thing I always do when it comes to mixing any stems, regardless if it's live drums or not, is I like to have all the peak levels at -6 in terms of the clip. Now, the reason being is because on my channel strips I use BX SSL channel strip, the Brainworks one, and hitting it at -6, it just gives me the right amount of juice, giving me the right amount of harmonics. There's a good balance between harmonics and the original signal. So I just like to hit this channel strip. It's an analog emulation with a certain amount of gain. So what I'm going to do is I use in Pro Tools, where are we? Defaulter. I haven't used this in a while because my assistant's been setting up all my mixing sessions, but basically I'll just set this to -6 and it'll go through each clip and align the peak value to -6. Okay, so now all the peak level is set. I like to align all the drum mics to one another. Now, I've got both Auto Align 1 and Auto Align 2. Now, I use Auto Align 1 pretty much religiously when it comes to aligning the mics on a drum recording. However, we're also going to look at Auto Align 2 because there's some cool things it does, but some things which I don't like about it. You, the subscribers, actually suggested I should get into Auto Align 2, so I went out and bought it to try it out. And I have been using it on guitar amps, like where there's multiple mics on a guitar amp and the DI, or multiple people actually in the same room in a live performance. It's really good. But for drums, it's been doing a few things I haven't been enjoying. The basis of my alignment technique is drawn from Craig Brower. The way he has talked about online, the way he does his auto alignment or his alignment is by using the overhead left as the main key for a lot of the drum alignment. And the reason why I've really adapted this is because as a drummer, I like a more natural sound. And the overhead left sits right over the snare drum for most right-handed drummers, which means your snare mic will be aligned to that. The kicks in the middle, it'll be aligned to that. And then the other mics for the snare, so the snare bottom gets aligned to the snare top, and the other mics for the kick, like the kick out or the kick sub, get aligned to that main kick in. We're just going to do that. I've already got everything keyed in, which makes super easy. So my sends for all the channels are already set up. So all I got to do is play back the track and start aligning each channel. So let's do that. Right, so now all the alignment is done. Let's actually have a listen to before and after. Yeah, that kick drum just sounds wildly better. Take a listen to this before and after. And then you got the snare. The snare sounds much of a muchness, but the rest of it's pulled together really nicely. Now, I did say I was going to talk about Auto Align 2, which is important to chat about because I'm not a big fan of it on drums, and I'll explain why. I'm not sure if you can see this, but look at these room mics here. It's pulled the room mics in phase with everything else. So those time delays, those early reflections, which aren't meant to be in phase with the main signal, which gives us our spatial sort of sound. That's why room mics are typically further away from the drum kit. It completely gets gobbled up here because it's compensating it by a great amount. So have a listen to this before and after with Auto Align 2. It does have a unique sort of sound. I just prefer my one in terms of using Auto Align 1 and manually managing all the mics and which aspects of the drums are in phase with one another. Basically because your overheads are your main image and they feed out to the individual elements around the kit, and those elements all stay in phase with themselves rather than just hoping that the algorithm in Auto Align 2 picks the right mic and in that mic everything is phase aligned to. Doesn't work as well. Next, we have to balance the levels. Now, when I balance levels, I typically work with the overheads at unity gain to start with, and then blend everything into that. So let's do that. We'll get the overheads at unity gain, and then we'll blend the kick drum in, the snare drums in, all the other elements around it to fill out the sound. So let's have a listen to where we are now. We've aligned the stems with one another and we've got a general balance of the overall kick, snare, overheads and everything. So before is the top one and bottom is what we're currently working on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the SSL console across the board here. And the reason is I just want to hear, once I add the TMT across everything, just to see how that saturation, that channel saturation, sort of blends in with the overall sound. I'm not going to start tweaking away at individual channels just yet. I like to start at the top, which is the overall drum bus. And for this, I'm just going to add another SSL channel strip here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to get a feel for the overall dynamics and the overall tone, and if it can be embellished anyway across everything. And there's a particular reason I do this. If I start EQing individual channels, it'll change the phase relationship of one mic to the rest of them. And that can actually drastically change the tone of things. So I don't really want to get into the nitty gritty of any individual channels just yet. I want to start on the drum bus first, just to build up as much of a larger picture as possible. let's just take a listen to this before and after. Mainly what I did was a lot of warmth to the lower mids. I just wanted to add that in, and then a bit of sheen to the top end. Fast compression, but just because everything's a little bit pokey and out there, I just wanted to control some of that. So take a listen to this before and after. Now, the next thing I like to do is create texture, create embellishment in the kick and the snare. And the way I do that is through parallel processing, which I've got a kick parallel set up. So we're going to send the kicks to this parallel channel. And when I do my parallel processing with drums, everything up until now has been very gentle, very just massaging the stems, getting them sounding organic and nice. On my parallel channels, I'm the exact opposite. I gate really heavily, I EQ really heavily, I compress really heavily, on purpose, because I'm trying to bring out a feel or a tone from those particular elements that I can blend in with everything. Sometimes I'll just even head to something like a decapitator to start distorting things and adding saturation, because I want to pull a certain tone or energy out of the drums, the kick or the snare. So let's actually do that and work through that. I don't like what Decapitator's doing, and I'm going to pull that down that top end because it's creating a weird sustain in it. Let's have another listen. That's better. Now to the snare drum, we'll do something similar with the snare. That's actually sounding really good. Let's just have a listen to this before and after again. I'm liking that. I like that quite a lot. Now, the overheads, I want them to be a bit more sheeny. So what we're going to do is we're going to take them and parallel process them in this parallel drums bus. Pretty much with this one, I like to use a 76 super fast, so an 1176 super fast compression, and then just blend it back up. So what we're going to use is we're going to use the where are we? The Blueface, because the Blueface is slightly brighter on this. So we're going to go all, attack, release, just slam the shit out of it and then blend it back in with itself. So when it comes to the toms, what I like to listen for is where that body is, boost the hell out of the body, and then use a compressor with a super slow attack time to bring back the snap. And also another really cool thing is I send my floor toms to a reverb, a short reverb with microshift, and you get this cool Phil Collins sort of sound out of it, which I don't know why. I just like doing it whenever I'm mixing toms. It's a little bit cheesy, but what the heck. Those toms are so loud, that's silly. They have to come down. It's the sustain. I like the body, but we'll bring them down. In lieu of bringing them down, we'll put them in the parallel bus a little bit. I think we get a little bit of sub out of the overall image. So I'm just going to go to the mix bus there and boost 30 hertz with the shelf. Now we've got snare verbs and drum verbs. So the snares have their own effect send, and the reverb for the drums I put on the kick and overheads. I do send the kick to my main reverb just because I like it being part of the sound. The overheads, then we're going to do something with that ride in a second, but I just want to get the reverb rocking for myself. So let's do this before and after. So there you have it. That's my drum mix. Again, I invite you, go download the drum stems. I want to hear what you guys do. I didn't use any drum replacement. Sometimes I do when I'm mixing, and it's not uncommon for me to. But this was just me covering the basics of how I set up a drum mix without doing a great deal of heavy EQing or weird shit. It's just good levels, good alignment on the mics, and some careful processing of individual elements. And there you have it. Until next time, take care.